Welcome everyone. My name is Samia. I'm your happiness expert, podcast host, and author of the book, Make Change Fun and Easy. And what I'm welcoming you to today is a business training on the warrior mindset with Geoff, who is a transformational coach. And we're going to be learning more about him and what he's all about in just a bit. And before we do that, I just wanted to let you know that this training is brought to you by the Dream Incubator. To learn more about the Dream Incubator, you can go to this website, which is dreamincubator.academyofthriving.com/community. I'm going to add that link in the chat for everyone and so forth. So you can go check it out. And basically, the Dream Incubator is a supportive online community for coaches, trainers, and healers. And it's designed to really act as an incubator, a safe and nurturing space that'll help you to grow and market your bright ideas by supporting you through the development and testing of your marketing. So that way, when you launch your marketing campaigns in a bigger way outside of the Dream Incubator, you can be confident that it will succeed because you have already tested and proven that your marketing is effective. Great or great. All right. So that was about the Dream Incubator and about me. And now I'm actually going to hand things over to Geoff. So Geoff, please come on up and tell us more about who you are and what we're going to be doing together.
Awesome. Thanks for having me today, Samia. Excited to share my knowledge with everyone. So today we're going to be talking about something that I like to call the warrior mindset. Now, it may be called the warrior mindset, but it's got more to do with determination, resilience, and grit. Because as we all know, as business owners, things aren't always peachy. Sometimes things are great. Sometimes things are not so great. And you've got to be able to make it through the tough times to really enjoy the good times. So in terms of my personal story, I'm a transformational life coach. I'm the founder of Mind Access Life Coaching. You can find me on any social media. And what I do is my business is designed around helping millennials basically get really clear on their life vision, overcome self-doubt, and create a personalized game plan to be able to strategize a way forward. So how I do this with several coaching programs, and I'll go through that later at the end. In terms of my personal story and how I find myself doing this is, so in the past, I used to be in academia, right? So I've got degrees in human biology, neuroscience, biotechnology. I've worked all around the shop, I've worked in corporate. But the secret is, during all of that time, I had a really bad addiction to drugs the whole time. I was a high functioning drug addict and I spent all of my time addicted to drugs, but a very high achiever. But the problem was, I discovered that I was so unhappy with my life. I was so unfulfilled that the only thing I could do to basically put any happiness into my life was to consume drugs, to party, to drink. And we see this pattern so often in society today. And that's where I found myself on the path of life coaching. 5 years ago, I bought a random course for life coaching, and I had no idea what it was. As I started to come off and I knew I needed to become sober to really achieve the things I wanted in my life, to really be the person I wanted to be. As I started to transition into this phase, I rediscovered my life coaching. I started to get certified into it. I started to really take it seriously. I went to my full-time work. Outside of full-time work, I was studying nonstop to try and become a life coach, because somewhere along the way, I realized that this is something that I can share with the world. I can share my experience with the world, and I can help people who are in the same position or are in the same position that I was. So that's how I find myself as a life coach today. And that's how I share myself to the world. I love sharing the story because it defines me. And that's why today I'm going to share the warrior mindset, because the only way I was able to get from where I was to where I am today is by changing my mind. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen with wishful thinking. It happened with active work. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to share my screen, and there's a slideshow, little slideshow I've made. And it's just going to be little questions, little reflective thoughts for you to think about while I share with you and guide you through this journey of how to really develop your mindset. So let me know if you can see my screen.
Mhm.
You can?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's my company, Mind Access. Now, I've just gone through my story. So the first thing that we have to go through to basically, it all leads to one place. This is a journey we're going to go on together. And the first thing is, what is your personal narrative? Have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about how you define yourself in your mind? In your mind, are you proud of who you are? Are you grateful for who you are? Are you happy? How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself positively? Do you see yourself negatively? Have you really taken a moment to sit back and think, who am I as a person? Have you taken time to write about it? Because our personal narrative defines a lot about how we live our lives, the actions we do on a daily basis, the things we say, how we spend time with others, how we pick our relationships defines on our personal narrative. Do you see yourself with great self-esteem? Do you respect yourself? And most importantly, do you love yourself? So I challenge you to think about that, because your personal narrative is a sum of all of your past experiences that define how you see yourself today. But the key is you can change your personal narrative. It doesn't depend solely upon what's happened, but what will happen. And the way to change it is to change the way you relate to your past events. They can bring you down or they can build you up. Now, this is where your personal narrative really stems from. There are three things here that really get you really clear upon this personal narrative. What are your fears? What are your thoughts that limit you? And are your fears real? Because see, our personal narrative can be all kinds of thoughts, especially as a business owner. We want to do a lot, right? As a business owner, we want to impact the world. We want to impact our clients. That's why we're in business. We could be all having a job right now, you know? We're in business because we want to actually help people do incredible things. Like when I was talking to Tasneem earlier, and she was saying that she helps people in interfaith. That's amazing. You know, they don't really have job roles. Right? That's something you create. That's something you do. So that's impressive. And the thing to really get clear upon who you are and where you want to go with your life is to realize, what are you afraid of? Deep down, what do you know you can achieve with yourself, but you're not doing? How are your thoughts? Are you thinking in a way in which you know you have the self-belief and the confidence to make something happen? Or are you choosing to ignore it? Are you choosing to push it away and say, this is not for you, you can't do it? And are your fears real? Are any fears that you currently hold real? Let's go into that. In terms of fears, human beings are born with two fears. It's incredible. We're born with two fears. One is the fear of falling, and the other is the fear of loud noises. Every other fear we have is made up. You can Google this. This is a fact. Babies are only born with two fears. There are rational fears, for example, you know, the fear of maybe sharks or the fear of drinking poison. These are fears based on survival. But every other fear that holds you back from living the life you want is something you have created based on your past events. And that's why understanding this is so important to change your personal narrative to really move forward in life and build your mindset. So once you get really clear on your fears, you need to understand why you have those fears. Okay. So fears don't just come out of nowhere. It's not like you wake up one day and you say, oh, I'm afraid. It doesn't work that way. What happens is fears are tied to something called neurological anchors. In addition to being a life coach, I'm also an NLP practitioner. I enjoyed life coaching so much, I took on another certification to be an NLP practitioner because it fascinates me. The mind is amazing. And in terms of neurological anchors, they are past events. So say, for example, as a child, something bad happens and you associate future events with what's happened when you were a child. So say, for example, if when you were a child, you love touching things at the shops, you know, children love to go and grab little things at the shops, and say, if your parents slap your hand, that associates in your mind that you shouldn't go out and explore the world. You shouldn't go out and touch things. That's an anchor based on a past event. But the important thing here about NLP and life coaching is that the majority of people cannot see this. It's in their subconscious mind. It's embedded into themselves. And it's very hard to realize it because of something called blind spots. Blind spots are areas about ourselves that we cannot see. It is impossible. Here's why. The brain functions on patterns. Everything our brain sees is a pattern recognition in terms of trees, in terms of interactions with other people. They are patterns that we build. They are personal narratives. When you see certain patterns and your brain identifies this constantly, you fail to see things that normally fit outside of that pattern. Like, for example, you may have noticed a time where you realize, oh, wow, I've never noticed that before. When you go to the shops, or when you go, maybe when you drive down the road, you're like, wow, I've never noticed this before. Because your brain is so conditioned to see things in a certain way that you actually forget to notice certain details. And that's called blind spots. And that's why life coaching, NLP is so useful. And that's where your mindset truly begins to develop, because you've got to get really clear on what's holding you back to really move forward. So this is how we do it. And I want to walk you guys through a little NLP tactic here. It's called the Satyr Matrix. I like to use this a lot with my clients, and I'm sure it's going to be beneficial for all of you as well. And here's what it is. So I'll give you a little bit of background. So the Satire Matrix is developed by someone called Virginia Satir. She's something like the godmother of NLP practicing or something like that. NLP was made by two men back in the late 1970s, and they adopted a lot of psychological tactics. And one is the Satire Matrix. So the Satire Matrix is a really good way to get clear on your blind spots, things that you cannot see, but you can see with objective reasoning. Because when you're stuck in your own mind and you're thinking along the same patterns, you can only begin to reinforce them. But when you take a backseat and you actually ask yourself questions that are not related based on emotions, but related based on factual happenstance, you can start to get really clear on your blind spots. Let me explain how to use this. So in the Satire Matrix, there is 4 quadrants. There is the will, the won't, the do, and the don't. If you have anything in your life that you want to do, or if you have anything in your life that you feel like you have to achieve, but you're not sure why you're not doing it, you're not sure why you're not taking the steps, you can ask yourself these 4 questions, and you can get very clear on the outcome, because you already know. Your brain is just refusing to show you because of those blind spots. So for example, if you want to achieve anything, let's say you want to open a podcast. You can say, what will happen if you do open a podcast? What won't happen if you do not open a podcast? What will happen if you don't open a podcast? And what won't happen if you don't open a podcast? These are all 4 different questions that are very different, because they show you every single scenario of what happens if you don't do this particular action. You see, when we operate on one narrative, say your personal narrative is, what will happen if I do, right? Say, for example, you're always thinking that, and you're negatively geared. You're constantly thinking about the worst possible thing. Then that's your narrative. You're only seeing quadrant 1. But what about the other 4 quadrants? What about the positive things that can happen? What about all the good things that can happen? What about the things you can gain? What about the ways you can impact others? You don't see this unless you ask yourself first. And that's why it's so important to have tools that allow you to dig deep into your mind to realize what you already know, but you're just choosing not to see, right? And that's where it comes back to your personal narrative. Now, moving on from the Satire Matrix, and I'll share this with you guys later as well, so you can use this logical, objective reasoning in your own lives. There is a way to build mindset. See, mindset is not something that you just say, okay, I'm going to have a better mindset. It doesn't work that way. For example, if you try and build a habit, let's say you try to exercise every day, and you've gone from never exercising, like you literally, like say you just never exercise, and on New Year's Day, you're like, I'm going to exercise every single day this year. How many people do this, and how many people fail? I talk to so many people that do this, and they fail every time. Why? Because they set themselves something without doing the work first. It's like going to the gym. You've never gymmed in your life, and you try to lift 100 kilos. You're going to break your back, right? You have to train, and training is absolutely important. There is a quote that I live by. It's called, you don't fall to the level of your expectations. You fall to the level of your training. Meaning that if you do not train every day towards something you want out of life, it's very hard to get it, because it requires consistent work. Anything worth getting requires consistency. So this here is the way in which I would like to share the concept of mindset. Think of resilience as your muscles, okay? When your body works, it requires multiple things. It requires muscles, it requires bones, it requires your brain, it requires the circulatory system. I've broken it down into 3. Resilience is what you build. Like, say, I'm going to use the gym as a perfect example. When you go to the gym, you try and build muscle, you train every day, you eat well, and you will build muscle. And with resilience, the key is that it has to be built. It is a habit. Resilience is a habit you learn. And how do you build resilience? By doing something that you dislike every single day. I know it sounds awful. It's like, why would I want to do something I dislike every day? Well, because something that you dislike every day pushes you out of your comfort zone. You see, you can never actually build any muscle unless you go out of your comfort zone. How do you build muscle? Well, you lift a little bit more every time. You train a little bit longer every time. That's how you build muscle. If you don't do this every day, then you just go back into your comfort zone and you just forget it ever happened. You take the blue pill and you forget any change ever happened, and you go back, and the next year you might make a difference. That's why so many people struggle with New Year's resolutions. They have to train and they have to make the decision to do it every single day. There cannot be any difference. Every day is the same day for which you can push yourself to do something better, to be better than yesterday. And you don't compare yourself to anyone else. You compare yourself to the person you were yesterday. That's how you really improve. The next is grit. Grit is a little bit different from resilience. Resilience is not giving up. Resilience means doing something every day and not giving up on that process. Grit is changing your emotional state. Here's where it gets interesting. Because when you are resilient towards something unpleasant, inside of you, you're gonna hate it. You're gonna hate it every day. You're gonna be like, why am I doing this every day? I hate it. I don't want to do it. That's your personal narrative. That's what you're telling yourself in your mind, that this is not you. Grit is when you can really bite your teeth down upon the dislike of what you're doing and do it anyways. Do it anyways because you know that in the long term, it's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit your business. It's going to benefit the people around you if you make the positive changes in your life. Because that's the beauty about positive change. You don't just change yourself. The changes you make, you share with people around you and you inspire them. And that's the beauty of it. It's not what you seek, it's just the effect of it. It's the ripple effect. Last of all is your mindset. Okay, this is the really culminates. It's a pyramid now. So your mindset is how you see the world. That's why I call it lens, right? So it's your eye. It's how you see everything. If you haven't done the previous work, if you haven't built your resilience, you haven't built your grit to go through the times that you don't like. And this is the reason I say it's daily, because in life, there are going to become times that it amplifies. There's going to be times where business may not prosper, sometimes where it may, sometimes there might be issues that you can't foresee that happen. You've got to be ready for it. And if you haven't done the train yourself to deal with hard situations, when bad things happen, or when, like unfortunate things happen, because that's just life, right? You're not going to be ready for it. You're going to struggle. And that's why building resilience and then grit and then your mindset is going to make a massive difference, because the way you see the world is one of preparation, where you're ready to respond to anything. And that's true power. And that's why you got to train that every day. So I guess one takeaway from here is I challenge all of you to really think about something that you don't like doing every day. It doesn't have to be something supremely difficult, like, I don't know, running a mountain, but it can be something that you don't like doing, but you know that if you do it, it's going to make you better. You know. And I challenge you to write that down and stay accountable to it. Do it every day. Do it every day, whether it's a life or business. Do it every single day and make sure that you work towards it and don't give up, because over time, you're going to see the results. And I'll share an example from my life. When I came off my drug addiction, I went to the gym every day for about 6 months. I just kept going every day. I used to hate going to the gym. I was on and off at the gym for about 8 years. But I knew that I needed to replace the bad habit with a good habit in my life. So I started going to the gym. And I gymmed so much every single day. I didn't do anything but go to my office job and gym. But every day I pushed myself harder and harder and harder, nonstop, every single day, to the point where it's just impossible for me to give up. If I go for a super long run, I don't give up. If I go to the gym and I train, even if I'm tired, it might be midnight, I don't give up. It doesn't matter, because I've trained. I've trained for so many years now. It is impossible to give up. The concept doesn't even apply anymore. And that's where mindset comes in. And how you can keep yourself going is with one very important factor. It's how you see obstacles. See, on the map, in the future, on the horizon, there are always obstacles. It's inevitable. It's life. Life is never going to be perfect, but life is how you make it. So when you see obstacles coming your way, some kind of difficulty, there are two ways you can respond. One, you can run for your life and you can say, I don't want to deal with this. Let's just procrastinate it. Let's forget about it. Or two, you can face it, because every obstacle is an opportunity. While it's difficult and you might lose something, you might gain something, it's an opportunity for one massive thing, and that's learning, experience. Learning and experience are invaluable. You can never buy these two. You can never buy them, because you can learn from all the books you like, but you can never learn from the experience of life, because that stays with you forever. You might remember from when we were all in school and we'd study our books and then we'd do a test and completely forget it, right? We've all been there. We'll completely forget it. It just happens. But if something difficult happens in our lives, we never, ever forget. Never. And that's why obstacles are important, because they allow us to learn lessons that we can use to improve ourselves, but only if we see them as an opportunity to become better. And that's why I say perspective is everything, because if you are unable to change the way in which you view difficulty, the way in which you view things that make you expand yourself and become better, then you will regress, because the opposite of growth is regression. And in your business, in your personal life, whatever you're doing, if you're trying to become better, but you're not actively doing anything about it, you're not going to become better. You're going to become worse, because there's only two ways it can go. And that's why it's really important to do this every single day. It's a habit. It's an important habit. Oops. So now I want to talk to you guys about how you can develop this. There is something called the wise mind approach. And this is how you can change your perspective towards difficult events. Because while I've talked a lot about the importance of it, now I want to give you a framework. I want to tell you, okay, this is how you can actively do it in your life. So this is the wise mind model. It is a neuro-linguistic programming model as well. And it was designed by Richard Bandler. And there are 3 quadrants, and you've seen the Venn diagrams before from math. It's basically the same, but the mind is the same too. The mind, and this is the conscious mind, by the way, not the subconscious mind. That's a whole different ballgame. We won't talk about that today, but this is the conscious mind. There are 3 quadrants: the emotional mind, the reasonable mind, and the wise mind. Okay, so let me talk you through it. The emotional mind is where, when you see obstacles on the map, when you see difficulty, you might feel anxiety, you might feel sadness, you might feel anger, fear, stress. These are all very primal responses, right? And you know when you're feeling it, because you're incapable of doing anything else, because you are caught in emotion. Emotion is a good thing. I think emotion is amazing for everyone. If we couldn't feel, we couldn't be human. But if we let our emotions run us, we'll never get anywhere, because then something is operating us from behind the scenes. On the flip side of this, another extreme is the reasonable mind, where you view everything with research and logic, stats, past experiences, right? So that was like me back in my corporate days, in my academia days. You know, it was all about research and logic and all this sort of thing, right? And that's really great, but that stops you from going through the learning experience, because you're looking at everything from such an objective view that you forget what it's like to actually be in that position. You kind of remove yourself from it, and it's just facts. It just happened, you know. There's no correlation, there's no data or whatever. But then if you combine these two, it's called the wise mind. It's where you now see what's happened in terms of mindful thinking, intuition, and balance. It's where now, when you want to make a decision, you think about how the decision is going to impact you and everyone else around you, how that obstacle might impact you and other people, or how you can use it in future to do something amazing with. Same way in which I'm sharing with you all my experience. That is the obstacle I had to face when I was trying to overcome my drug addiction. These are all things that I had to learn along the way, and I'm sharing it. Another one is intuition. Intuition is really special. Here's why. Intuition is evolved into humans. It's in our subconscious mind. See, our mind consistently collects data every day. Every single day it collects data, it stores it in the mind. Now, what our brain does, something very special, is it projects into the future. Your subconscious mind is always projecting to the future. It's collecting all the information from the past, turning it into something useful and projecting it into the future, meaning that in the past, when you may have made bad decisions and have bad outcomes, you forget about it. You get blind spots. Your brain intentionally forgets about it. Your conscious mind, your subconscious mind stays aware, projects it into the future. And that's where you get that gut feeling that something isn't right. You shouldn't be doing this. because that's your subconscious mind. It's called the gut-brain axis, if you'd like to do more research into it. The gut-brain axis is a very, very important neural axis in the body. And what it does is it creates an intuitive response where we know we should or shouldn't do something. And last of all, balance. Having the correct balance of work, especially as a business owner, we've got to work a lot. If we're trying to get into something, we're trying to do something, we're trying to share with the world, we have to work. It's inevitable. No one's going to do it for us. We're business owners. Now, the key is to have a balance though. If we work all the time and we don't, say, develop ourselves, we don't read, we don't spend time with family or friends, we don't take care of ourselves, then our work is going to suffer. Because now we're looking all at, say, for example, falling into pleasure, the emotional mind, or falling into the reasonable mind, just thinking about everything and doing nothing. This is really unhelpful habits for a business. So by changing the way you think and your mindset towards obstacles and your personal narrative, it all culminates in the wise mind model. Really think about how you view the world. Do you view it with emotion? Do you view it with logic? Or do you view it with both? But the key is it takes practice and time. And that's why, as I mentioned previously, resilience and grit create your mindset. And that allows you to see things with greater clarity. Not necessarily wisdom, but clarity. Because clarity allows you to make, good decisions. Actually, no, that's a few slides away. Let me just go through this first. So once we're at a point of clarity, once our minds are liberated and we're allowed to see things clearly because we've actively worked towards it, we can learn three very important things. And these are the three pillars of literally everything you do in your life. Everything, whether it's business or personal life or whatever, this is the three pillars. What are your values? What are your morals? What are your ethics? If you're not clear on this, you got to get clear on it. And why do you have to get clear on it? I'm not saying that you have to, but I'm saying that if you're not clear on these three things, you continuously self-sabotage yourself. Because if you know something goes against your values, like say, for example, if you're really against stealing, you're really against it, but then you get persuaded to go to the shop and you steal something, how does that feel? It feels awful, right? The feeling on the inside, there's nothing worse than that. When you go against your values, when you go against your morals, you go against your ethics, there is nothing worse than that feeling. And every time you do it, you chip away at yourself a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. You devalue yourself. You lose your self-respect. You lose your self-esteem. These are what make you able to make good decisions. But if you go against these, that's the flip side. But if you follow them, that's where you really change your life. By getting clear on what you value, what your morals are, and what your ethics are, you can begin to make very clear life decisions. You know what you need to do. You just need to go and do it. And you need a plan to go and do it. That's where a coach comes in. But you need a plan to go and do it. Now, how you do this is, well, you create something called a personal vision. This is one of my favorite activities. I do this all the time. I rejig my personal vision, but for most of the time, it stays the same. See, what a personal vision is how you see your life panning out. And I don't mean 5 years, I don't mean 10 years. I mean literally how your entire life is going to pan out. And there's an exercise that I learned along the way called gazing all the way to the end. And that's why the first thing to do is get clear on those three opponents: values, morals, and ethics. Gazing all the way to the end means literally assuming that you have died, assuming that everyone's at your funeral, everyone's watching, you're there, but you're in spirit form. How would you want everyone to remember you during your life? And how would you want to remember yourself during your life? That is a personal vision, because how that pans out at the very end, you just have to do everything in between. But you got to get clear on what that means, whether it's your business impacting the world, whether it's you impacting the world, whether it's even just being a good mother or a good father. Those things are important too. But unless you're very clear on what you want out of your life, you will go around in circles over and over and over again without having any kind of clear destination. And the destination is not what you do. The destination is who you become. Because who you become will establish what you do with your life. They are completely correlated together. Who you become as an individual. And that's where the training comes in. That's where the mindset comes in. Because unless you build yourself up every day, you won't be able to handle the stress of big situations. You won't be able to handle the difficulty of really high intense situations. Say if any of our businesses blew up, they were huge, they weren't global. How would we handle that? How would we handle the impact if we don't train ourselves every single day to be the person that could? So have a think about that, because unless you know exactly what lies at the end of your life, you will go around in circles and overthink and overfeel and just go and do the same thing over and over again. Get clear on how you want to live your life, because you get to choose. No one else does. And you only get one shot. This is the only chance you have at being you. You may get reborn, reincarnated, we don't know, but this is the only chance at being you. You only get one time to do it. And that's why it's up to you what you make out of it. So when you have a personal vision, you're going to get clarity. And the cool thing about clarity, in fact, not cool, the amazing thing about clarity is that you have great decision-making ability. Here's how. So when you know what you want out of your life, right, you don't have to worry about, for example, if somebody asks you to do something and it doesn't align with your morals, your values, your ethics, or what you actually want out of your life, you don't have to do it. You don't have to go anywhere, do anything, be anyone, see anyone. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. Now, say, for example, if it comes to your business and it comes to like having to earn income on the side or something like that, these are things that benefit the ultimate goal. But if, for example, someone is asking you to do something that goes against your ethics, you can say no. Because you're clear that if you do that, you devalue yourself. You lose respect for yourself. You sabotage yourself. Because every time you do something that doesn't align to your vision, you just move a little bit away from your goal, a little bit away. You may not realize it, but it does happen. Because when you reflect upon it, you realize how much time, how much effort and energy you have spent on things that don't align with what you care about. And that's why having that personal vision allows you to make decisions like that. No decision should take more than 5 minutes. None. Not any decision should take more than 5 minutes. If you know who you want to be and what you want to do, 5 minutes is the maximum you should spend on any decision. Any more than that, and you're wasting your time. Time that could be spent doing something that's working towards your vision. And that's why getting really clear on it is so important. Now, there are key attributes to every business owner that I find. Okay, I found this in myself, found this in the successful people that I've met around me as well, successful business owners. And these are 5 things that I have observed that I would like to share with you guys. The first one is open-mindedness. As a business owner, the key is to be open-minded and collaborate. The same way in which Samia and I are doing this today. We're collaborating. We don't even live on the same continent. Samia lives in Los Angeles. I live in Perth, Western Australia. We live literally on the opposite side of the globe. But the key is that we both have the open-mindedness to connect to each other and talk. And that's important, because if you're closed-minded, if you're like, I'm only this person, I'm only going to do this, well, then you will only do that. But you're missing out on tapping into the infinite wealth of intelligence that is another human being. Samia knows more about life than I do. I know more about life than Samia does. We live different lives. She knows things I don't know. I don't think she doesn't know. And that's the beauty about being open-minded, is you're willing to learn from everyone. Everyone has something to teach you. Even if you think it may be useless, they have something to teach you. And as a business owner, we always got to improve. Otherwise, we're regressing. The second, as I was just leading into, the desire to improve. You have to want something out of your business. You have to want to improve it. You've got to want to take it somewhere. Your business is your vehicle. You are the driver. If you choose not to even get into the car, your business is not going to go anywhere. You have to desire improvement. How do you want to impact more people? That's the key. How do you want to impact more people? A business has to impact people. If you don't impact people, you don't have a business. That's the key. So you have to desire to improve. The third, the ability to pivot. Pivoting means basically changing what you do at the drop of a hat. Because sometimes when we get into a really fixed mindset, we don't see the blind spots that are happening. Maybe, for example, we're doing a business that nobody needs. Maybe, for example, we're doing a business in a way that only serves ourselves. Maybe we haven't thought about our customers. Maybe we haven't thought about our clients. Maybe it's all about us. And if that is, then we've got to be able to pivot straight away. We've got to be able to take that knowledge, that information we've learned from other incredible coaches, incredible consultants, incredible people around the world, take it, learn it, and realize, okay, I need to change, and do it straight away. Like I said before, 5 minutes to make a decision, never more, never less. The fourth is a no quit attitude. That's where all the training comes in, right? The daily resilience, the daily grit, the daily mindset, every single day. When you train every day, remember I said before, you fall to the level of your training, never the level of your expectation. You can expect your business to become $1 million business within a year. Is that reasonable? Maybe. But is that feasible if you don't work at it every day? No, it's impossible. You have to work at it every day. And the way in which you create this attitude is in the little steps. Maybe it might be meditating every day. Maybe it might be exercising every day. Maybe it might be drinking 3 liters of water. Whatever it is if you can't implement simple habits, you won't be able to implement grand ones. No quit attitude. It comes from the most small place. You build your foundations. Every skyscraper requires infinite foundations, and so do we. And we have to work at it every single day. And last of all, and this is my favorite, is a love of the process. You got to love it. The good times, the bad times. And here's why. Because if we focus so much on having something, this is why I draw you all into the future to think about what you'd like to be said at your funeral, because when you're dead, you cannot take anything with you. All you can take with you is your experience. And all that's left behind is other people's experience of you. If you focus on attaining something like, for example, X amount of money or a car or a nice house, these are great things, but you cannot take them with you once you die. They're not real things. They are real in this world, but not in the next. And that's why loving the process means loving the process of who you are becoming, not what you're going to get, not what you might achieve or what you might take. No, it doesn't matter. What matters is a love of the process of you becoming better than you were yesterday, tomorrow becoming better than you were today. Every day is a journey. Every day is an adventure. And in little ways, if we record it, this is why gratitude journaling is really important, because it allows you to record your process. You see, sometimes life moves quickly, as we all know. It's already 14th of January. That's insane. Christmas was 20 over days ago. It felt like it was yesterday. Life moves quickly. And if you don't truly appreciate your journey and you don't record it, you can't fall in love with the process, because you're not going to realize how much better you've become. But that only occurs if you work every single day at getting better. And if you love the process of who you're becoming and you're not attached to an outcome, you're infinite, my friend. You can be anything you want because you're falling in love with yourself, you're respecting yourself, and you're showing up for yourself every day. And that's how your business is really going to fly. It's really going to thrive, really going to flourish, because your business is a representation of you. You are your business. You own it in some degree. Maybe it runs itself, but you are still the business. You drive that. And if you don't love the process, how are you going to love your business? It all comes at one. It all comes to a core thing. Love yourself, love the process, and anything is yours. And here's a quote that I want to share just to kind of cap it off so you guys can read. I'll read it actually. Most of the important things in the world have been accomplished by people who have kept on trying when there seemed to be no hope at all. Think about that. What is hope? Hope is an expectation that something good is going to occur, but trying is still better than doing nothing, because the guarantee of trying is that you might make something amazing happen. You might change your life. You might change many people's lives. That's the guarantee of trying. It might happen, but the guarantee of not trying is that it will never happen. So if you show up every day, take accountability for your mindset, take accountability for your business, and be present and enjoy the process, you're going to go somewhere. Maybe somewhere that you want to go, maybe, but it's better than staying in the same spot. And that is key. So that's my presentation, everyone. I just want to share with you what I do now. I just want to share with you because I've talked a lot about things that I share with my clients. I want to share with you all how my coaching actually works, because it might give you a feel of what happens. So this here is coaching modules. I have several coaching modules. I have 5. Okay, this is one. It's called the Purpose Insight. It has separate modules. These are the things we work on. We work on finding your purpose. We work on self-awareness, core beliefs, self-esteem, relationships, neuro-linguistic programming, goal setting. This is all designed to create the ultimate personal transformation. As you can see, there are 14 coaching sessions, 25 online resources. The coaching is designed to create the change that you seek, to create the outcome that you want out of it, because you know when you need something. You know if you need to get clear on your life direction. You know if you need to overcome your fears. You know if you need to improve your mindset. You know if you need to create confidence. You know if you need to set goals. I've designed this based on what I know my clients need best. I've had many clients over my time as a coach, and I've learned how to modify my courses into a personalized game plan that help you get what you want out of the coaching. That's the most important thing. What I want doesn't matter. What you want matters the most. because my coaching is designed for you. And there's ongoing strategy sessions where I give you support the entire time. I support you throughout the entire way of the journey. And that's important because accountability, like I mentioned before, is key. Mindset is fostered by accountability. And if you struggle with that, that's where a coach comes in. So I just wanted to share my coaching programs with everyone. And I hope you've all enjoyed my presentation about the warrior mindset. If you'd like to learn more about my work and what I do, I'm going to give Samia a few links as well, and or get in touch with me directly. But otherwise, I've been really honored to share this with you all today.
Yay. Thank you, Geoff. And I, by the way, shared your Facebook link to your Mind Access Life coaching page in the chat, both on the Facebook Live. For those of you who are watching on Facebook Live, thank you for joining. And also Zoom chat. So that was really awesome. Do we have any questions from any of our live listeners? And by the way, if you are listening to the recording, still feel free to put down any questions you have either in the comments under the video, and we will check on it later and get back to you. Or feel free to, if you have a question for Geoff, connect with him directly. You have the link.
I have a question, because the things which I've learned up till now, every mentor has said, do the work which you love. If you do anything which is you don't love, like the thing which you explained, the grit, then do the work which you hate. So can you explain that, please?
The best way, that's a great question, Aaliyah. And the best way I could explain that is, say, for example, you love McDonald's and you hate salads. What would happen if you ate McDonald's every day? Right? So yeah, the same applies to life. If you only do what you love, see, there are different things. Doing what you love is the personal vision I talked about. That's the end result. That's what you ultimately love. But if you only do things you love along the way, you could not possibly create that personal vision, because life is a balance. There are hard things and there are enjoyable things. If you only pick the enjoyable things, in this instance, say, if you only chose to eat McDonald's every day, you get diabetes. But if you chose to eat salads, and even though you don't like salads, if you eat salads, you know they're going to make you healthier. And then the same goes for life. If you do things you don't like, it's going to help you achieve what you really want out of life, the thing you love. There's got to be a balance, and it can't all just be have your cake and eat it too. That's the way I see it, and I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
And I think there is also a difference between when our mentors or wise people say do what you love, they're talking perhaps from that bigger picture perspective of the vision aspect of do what you love. But we know that when you get into the nitty-gritty of doing, there might be certain aspects of what you have to do that you don't enjoy as much. But perhaps by having the right mental attitude, you can learn to enjoy the process, even if you don't appreciate the task in itself. Maybe you can learn to enjoy, the idea, or focus on what it will help you to achieve, and how it will help you to live your vision of doing something that you love. So even if the specific task in the moment is something that you're struggling with, that you're like, oh, I don't love this, with the right mental attitude, you can still figure out ways to find the positive in that and focus on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, Samuel. And that's where the daily training comes in. So you can take the negatives, you can take the hard stuff, and you can turn it into something positive.
I had a quick question. You mentioned there are only 2 types of fears, and the first one was fear of falling. What was the second one?
The fear of loud noises.
Loud noises. That's a new one. I haven't heard that before.
It's got a lot to do with our evolutionary psychology. So when we're born, we have no defenses, right? where babies, we have, well, no defense at all. So there are two things that allow us to be able to create more survival, because when we fall, falling ideally means, well, in evolutionary days, it would mean death. If you were dropped, you die. So by crying, you can ask for help. So say if you get dropped from a perch, you can ask for help. Of loud noises as well, that would be like predators, that would be different tribesmen in war. So you can cry for help, because babies have no response apart from crying. So these two fears are built into us so that we can cry for help. But every other fear is learned, so it's not even real. Apart from the fear of course, dangerous things like, drinking poison, but everything else is learned.
That's interesting. Okay. I've also liked, like, I've heard this before several times, and it happens to be my area of struggle, which is to have that vision, to have the love for the vision, to feel invested in the vision, to love the process and not let but not be attached to the expectations that the vision will turn out X way or whatnot. So I love the emphasis that you had about on just loving of the process. And one way of doing that is by just paying more attention to who you're becoming along the way. Yeah.
It's powerful, right? Because then you fall in love with yourself, and not in a narcissistic way, but in a way of, I respect myself.
Mm-hmm.
I am really developing, and you feel a sense of gratitude for the fact that you showed up every day. And that's where it all ties in together.
Yeah. Well, definitely powerful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thanks for attending.
All right. So I don't see any other questions in the chat and so forth. And yeah, so I think we're about ready to wrap up. And I want to thank once again for all of you who have joined us live, and for those of you who are watching the recording. Thank you for participating. And yeah, again, I just want to remind you about Geoff. I've shared his links in the chat, so make sure you click on the links, check out his page, learn more about his work, and I'm sure you'll be very, very inspired, even more inspired to connect with him. And this event, once again, has been brought to you by the Dream Incubator, which is an online supportive community for coaches, trainers, and healers to help you with your marketing and so forth. So you can go ahead and click on the link in the chat for that as well, learn more about that. And just my very last note for us for today: when you sign off, you will see on your screen a survey will pop up. Please fill out that survey. It'll be really helpful for us to have that feedback from you so we can continue to improve our events in the future. So please do fill out that survey. And other than that, I'm just going to wish you lots and lots of peace and joy until we connect next time.